Thomas Garrett heard the gunshots just after midnight. 3 sharp cracks that echoed across the desert hills, followed by the thunder of horses riding hard toward the Mexican border. He grabbed his rifle and moved to the window of his small ranch house, watching shadows disappear into the darkness. At 35, Thomas had learned to mind his own business in this harsh corner of New Mexico territory. Blood seeped from a gash on her temple, and her bare feet were cut and bleeding. Apache, he realized, noting her features and the turquoise pendant around her neck. The gunshots suddenly made sense. Someone had been hunting her. "You're safe here," he said quietly. "Put down the knife. Let me help you." She studied him with intelligent eyes, weighing his words against whatever horrors she had recently endured. She had been married to a man from a nearby town, a brutal drunk who beat her regularly and treated her as property rather than a wife. When she finally fought back and escaped, he had gathered his friends and come after her, determined to drag her back or kill her trying. "Apache women belong to their husbands forever," she said bitterly. "That is what he told the sheriff. That is what the law says too. I am his property." He cooked for her, changed her bandages, and spoke to her with a gentleness that seemed to surprise her. On the 4th morning, he found her standing in his kitchen before dawn, already preparing breakfast. "You should rest," he said. She sang while she worked, songs in her native language that made the little ranch house feel less lonely, and Thomas found himself watching her more than he should, noticing the curve of her smile, the grace in her movements, the fierce intelligence in her eyes. 2 weeks passed, then 3. The men who hunted her never came, perhaps assuming she had perished in the desert, but Thomas and Iona both knew the peace was temporary. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of amber and rose, she turned to him with an expression of absolute seriousness. "You treated me with honor," she paused, her dark eyes meeting his. "In my people's tradition, such kindness creates a debt, and I wish to repay it in a way that will bind us together." "We are going to grow old together watching them grow strong." Thomas stared at her, stunned, speechless. She smiled at his expression, a real smile that transformed her entire face. "Unless you do not want this? Unless you do not feel what I feel when you look at me?" He found his voice rough with emotion. I felt it from the moment you lowered that knife. But Ayana, people here won't accept us. Your husband will cause trouble. The law won't recognize our marriage. We'll face hatred and obstacles at every turn. I have faced hatred my entire life, she said simply. I have been beaten and hunted and told I was less than human. But I have never faced it with someone beside me who saw me as equal, who saw me as worthy. If you are willing to stand with me, I am willing to stand with anything the world throws at us. The sheriff, seeing Thomas's determination and Ayana's resolve, quietly suggested the husband leave town and not return. Some neighbors ostracized them, but others, worn down by their own loneliness, came to respect the fierce love they saw between the unlikely couple. Their first child, a daughter, arrived the following spring. Then came a son, then another daughter, then twins. The little ranch house expanded, room by room, to accommodate the growing family. Ayana filled it with Apache traditions and Thomas's frontier practicality, creating something entirely new. Their children grew up speaking two languages, honoring two cultures, and understanding that love was stronger than any law written by hateful men. Years later, when their grandchildren asked how it all began, Thomas and Ayana would share a knowing look. "Your grandmother made me a promise under the desert stars," Thomas would say, "and she kept every word of it." Ayana would laugh and add, "And your grandfather was foolish enough to believe a fugitive woman covered in blood and holding a knife. But it was the wisest foolishness of his life. It was a love story born from desperation and mercy, forged in defiance and courage, and sustained by two people who chose each other when the world told them they couldn't. And it proved that sometimes the greatest families come from the most unlikely beginnings."